Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life is Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities that he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. This tour spotlight on the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we will be discussing the Forest Park located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So, tell us about the layout of Forest Park.
Forest Park is laid out like a big municipal park over 1.5 square miles, which is about 775 acres. It's enormous. There's 4 reservoirs through the midsection of it, and that midsection also has things like a duck pond, and of course it has things along it and around it that makes it really enjoyable for the family experience. Now, along this podcast, I'm going to tell you about this history and also about the Barney family somewhat, and then tell you about the trolley barn that's out front, which is not really a trolley barn. All right, now the layout of it is that towards the western edge, you have the Barney former home, now gone, but it was along that edge, and with it was a carriage house, which is a great looking carriage house, nice and big in a Victorian style. And behind it, up on its own little hillock, you have the Barney Mausoleum, which is the grave site or burial site for 3 members of that Barney family, Everett Barney and his wife, and then his son George Barney, who died actually first. And also within the park, you have towards its middle top, you have a recreation area where there's softball, baseball fields, tennis courts. Then you have a section where the zoo is. It's a more modern look to the zoo lately, where a lot of smaller animals have their own set little barn for themselves, and the kids can go in there and look at the animals in an interactive style. There's also an environmental center called the Echo, and there used to be other things like a polar bear house, and that was taken out. Now, people like to hike around there also, so there's hiking trails throughout. And then the eastern part is the part that's least used and it's very natural, so you can walk into that section. There's no roads there. So it's a very enjoyable place for people to be.
And tell us about the history of this park.
All right, now Everett Barney wanted to get the park going, and he contributed a lot of land and money. And by the early 1890s, it all started to come together. And then others of his neighbors, he would tell them, can you donate your land and some money to this cause? And so they got a lot of people starting to donate their land that lived around the Forest Park neighborhood. And it thus became a very gorgeous place and very large. And people started to join in. People started to go there on Sunday afternoons after work. It's a great place to be for a person that would work in these mills or plants and didn't have cars yet, and they would just come here in a trolley, and it became a place to be. Very similar to other true trolley parks and other big parks around Western Massachusetts. So, for that reason, it would develop, and they took the money and developed it more and more along the way. The reservoirs were built, the recreation areas started being built with stadiums, and the more money you get, the more you can put into it.
And really quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, to find out more information, or if you're interested in signing up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can also find videos and podcasts of the stops along each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214 and his tours make for fun, educational outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview, tell us about the Barney family.
Everett Barney made a lot of his money, first in the armament business, and then later in the ice skating business and the roller skating business. And there he made adjustable roller skates and ice skates. And he was the first person to have done this, so he made a lot of money off it. One of the places inside Forest Park is a pond, our rink that was iced up, and people come ice skate. So he got very rich in Springfield off of doing this. His family includes his wife and then his son George. His son George died fairly young. He was only like 30 something years old. And he wanted a beautiful place for them to live and have a carriage house for their horse and buggy. And he also wanted to have a place for them to be buried, so they buried him right on the land. And 3 years after the death of his son, so his son died in 1888, in 1881, they made that mausoleum. And it's a gorgeous outdoor mausoleum with a very spectacular steel wall on both sides. And from that, the park grew and grew. And so you have a park with a mausoleum. A very unique park for sure.
And tell us about the Charlie Barn.
Now, this is not a trolley park, which means a park owned by the trolley company. It is a park owned by a park association. It did have the trolley come right up to its gates. And so, in a weaker sense, it's a trolley park. A lot of people would come here on Saturday or Sunday afternoons, enjoy themselves for quite a few hours, and then go back on the trolley. Remember that in the 1880s, 1890s, no cars around. It wasn't very common to have cars until the mid-19 teens. And so people would come here and enjoy themselves like a true trolley park, even though it was not quite that definition. And so the trolley would come up here and have to have a place to drop people off right inside the park, and that was very soon after the main entrance. And so they made a trolley station right on the intersection of the park and the main thoroughfare. And that trolley station has survived through the years. It curves around a bit because the trolley would have to take a wide turn around it. And people could stay there to wait or stay there till someone they knew came along, in case they meet someone. Or they go straight to the park so you can just go right in. And so it still exists. It's well taken care of. The floor is very nice. Now, it's not a trolley barn. A trolley barn is a place where the trolley would pull in for the nighttime and station there. So this was just a trolley passenger station for people waiting. All right, you can call it a small level passenger station. And since it has a unique look to it, people have tried to conserve it through the years, and it's still very well maintained.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And check out a large selection of our other podcasts at his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new podcasts and videos posted daily. Thank you for joining in.